Hello and welcome. This is James from the DSO Imager channel. And what you're seeing on the screen there is Saturn. So it is about 11, August 12th, 2022, and it's opposition for Saturn. So I thought I'd do some planet imaging tonight. You can even see Jupiter coming up over there. Now, normally I wouldn't do astrophotography, right? You can see that there are some clouds, and there's even a decent chance of rain later on tonight. The telescope is set up for DSO, so I'm going to have to take all that apart, the imaging train apart, and we'll give it a go. We'll try F10. The seeing is supposed to be good tonight, so we'll try F10, and if I can't get anything to work with F10, I'll put the reducer back on. Alright, so I managed to get the scope up on Saturn. You can see it there on the screen. This is with the ASI mono, currently the red filter. I did get a bunch of recordings. Zoom in, I don't know how well this will show up. Seeing is pretty decent right now. Now, actually, I captured this at a little higher gain in or lower gain and a higher frame rate to kind of make it look better for this recording. But you can, I don't know how well that shows up, but I was, this is around 20 frames per second, and I'm using the region of interest, 1040 by 1040. This is at F10, so it'll be interesting to see how these turn out. The last times I shot Saturn, I was running with the 0.7 reducer. So next time you see me, I will have the image processed. Alright, so let's look at some data. First, I use a couple different programs for this. Alright, what you're seeing right here, these are the video files that SharpCap created, and that's using an SCR format. Now, I can use pip, this one right here, and I can load these files into pip, and one of the things that pip can do is convert them to AVI, but AutoStacker will convert these to, or can stack from the SCR file format. And so it's just a matter of grabbing the three of them, right, and just dropping them in there. And the nice thing about this is that when you get your output, everything is aligned, so you don't have to worry about different file sizes or the planets being misaligned for the RGB combination. And basically this middle point here, it's just set a reference point, and I hit analyze, and it's going to analyze the frames. I won't go through the whole process here, but I'll show this part here. Alright, so it analyzes the frames. We have a chart here. The quality here doesn't really look that great, but well, I mean, it's okay. I've seen better. It turned out the data wasn't quite as good as I was expecting it to be. But anyway, so after that, you do the analyze. You got to put these alignment points in here. And so I just do a manual draw, and I'll put, little boxes here. And after I do this, I'll select what percentage of the frames to stack, and I usually base this number on this graph, on this line right here. So we have a gentle slope here, and so I'm going to take the top 50% for this. I actually experimented, and I did stacks, everything from 5% to 50%, and I didn't see that much of a difference in the loss of detail between, say, the 5% and the 50%. So I went with 50%. Oh, and I did do 3x drizzle. Now, just to clarify, I am running at F10 on this, so F10 with a 2x Barlow, a very cheap 2x Barlow, and then the ASI 178 with its tiny little 2.4 micron pixels. So maybe that whole combination wasn't an ideal setup. But regardless, when I got to this point, I hit the stack button, it goes and stacks them, and it spits them out into a folder. Alright, and we'll go into this folder, and you can see here, so they're 5%, 10%, 19, 25, and 40. So for the actual picture, I do believe I went with 40. And so what it does is it puts out TIFF files of the these are your stacked images, and so we can load them up into PixInsight. Just drag all three and drop them in, and here they are. I mean, they don't look too bad, but honestly, they're quite a bit softer than I was hoping. It almost looks like they're out of focus a little bit. I mean, you can see the Cassini divide here, but I was expecting a sharper image. But it is what I had, so I needed to go forward. And I experimented with different ways of processing this. I did just load them up in the RGB tool. I use the LRGB combination tool. Yeah, you can see those, and I just put them in there just like that. And yeah, I mean, you can see everything aligned up pretty well. And you could even do a quick color calibration on there. Right now it's too bright, so it makes me wonder if my gain was too high, or my exposure was too long. I always have a hard time knowing exactly what it should look like on the capture screen. I mean, I don't do planets very often. I think the last time I did this was almost 2 years ago. So every time I do it, it's like relearning the process from scratch. So the next piece of software is Registax, and I'll go ahead and open it up. This is actually the older version, and again, you can just drag and drop one of these over. Now I tried with the combination, and then and I ran the color image through Registax, and then I wasn't too pleased with the result, so I tried running Registax on each of the individual frames, and I seem to get better results that way. And so with Registax, you're really just messing around with these wavelet layers here, and it's applying the change in the center. So you can see how this is getting more pixelated, right, as I slide these bars over. And I'm not going to process the whole thing. I'm just kind of demoing what these do. Now, for each layer, you got a denoise and a sharpen. So I can crank up this denoise option, and then I can crank up sharpen some more, and so it's kind of like playing a balancing act. Alright, and once you get to a result that you're liking, or you want to see how it looks on the rest of the image, you click on this do all and watch the little progression bar down here, and it's applying the change to the whole image. So now you can see the impact that it's having on the rings. And so yeah, I worked on each of these here in Registax, and then I went back into, yep, there's the final image. I went back into PixInsight, and this is what they look like after running each one through Registax. So I mean, not too bad for someone that doesn't do this very often. And it doesn't look too, it looks fairly sharp as long as you don't zoom in too much. It kind of falls apart zooming in, but yeah. And so after that, it was just a matter of combining them in RGB and then tweaking them in Photoshop. I do believe the last touch that I did was in Photoshop. Let's see how this looks. Yeah, there we go. I had resized it too. Let's see. That's without resizing it. Yeah, I thought there was a little bit too much blue in here, so I dialed the blue back, and I corrected the angle so that it matches what, at least it matches what it showed it should be in Stellarium. Now I want to go over a couple of lessons learned. That way, the next time I decide to take pictures of the planets, I can watch this video and remind myself of some of the problems that I have. The frame rate was consistently slower than I was expecting it, and I thought the 178 was faster. Based on my previous use, I think I was maxing out at around 24 frames per second, and that's really just too slow for shooting planets. Thinking back on it, you know, I think I had the camera plugged into a USB 2 port and not the USB 3. So if that was the case, then that would definitely hamper my collecting, and that's something I need to be aware of before going in to get the full capability of the camera. The other problem I ran into, now usually SharpCap detects the filter wheel, and you get a control on the right side for quickly selecting filters, but for whatever reason in SharpCap it wasn't coming up, and I would have to go into like the settings and hardware tab and properties and change the filter in there, and so that added some delay between filter changes and recording the next set of video, and it also was like an extra thing to try to keep track of, and I think that was taking my attention away from other parts, specifically the focus and the frame rate. And really, I mean, mono's just, I think mono produces a good results, but it is a kind of a pain to use, especially on a planet like Jupiter where the rotation is very fast and you're having to manage the filter change. So I really think I should be using a one-shot color camera, and the reason I don't is because I feel like the mono does a better job of handling the atmospheric distortion than one-shot color. I did try my ASI 224MC once, and I wasn't too impressed with the results. So, I mean, that could just be my inexperience, but I probably need to pick up one of those ADCs to manage the atmospheric distortion better. And lastly, the sky conditions were getting worse, right? And so I'm out there playing around with different settings, wasted most of the better part of the evening with the better conditions. So by the time I finally felt like I was dialed in, the conditions were getting worse. And so, I mean, that comes with practice, right? The imaging planets is very different from DSOs. So anyway, that's my results for Saturn's conjunction for August 2022. Love to hear your comments on this. Any tips from the more experienced planetary guys, please drop them below. I'd love to hear what your guys' experiences are. Did anyone go for planets this time around? And after that, clear skies.